Hello everyone, welcome to Newcastle Fans TV. As you can see, just over here, we'll do it this way. There we go, at the top. You can see the clock. It's finished. Transfer deadline day is finished. And Newcastle United have completed their only signing, well, proper first team signing. And Joe Willock, the Arsenal man, has joined Newcastle on loan from now till the end of the season. The 21-year-old has put pen to paper on a loan deal that season as the number 22. I think he's taken over DeAndre Edlin's number at Newcastle United. Get your comments in. The best comments will get on screen like this one. The whole team performed well last time out. His previous games, if it's previous games I'm talking about, says Colin. But yeah, brilliant news that we've managed to get somebody in on the final day. It wasn't the man I thought I was going to be talking about. I thought I was maybe going to talk about Hamza Chowdhury, Brandon Williams over the last 3 to 4 weeks have been mentioned. But it's Joe Willock, the Arsenal youngster that has joined Newcastle. I didn't even think he might be the only Arsenal player that potentially was going to join Newcastle. I thought Ainsley Maitland-Niles might have been the Arsenal player that Newcastle might have signed on loan. But it's Joe Willock. Willock is more of an attacking midfielder. And yeah, I think he's a player that Newcastle need. I think he gives the team something different. If you look at the formation we played against Everton in our 2-0 win, I think he can easily slot in the Hendrick position. And he gives us a little bit more creativity going forward. So I'm really, really excited about this. Obviously, not be able to play against Crystal Palace tomorrow. But Southampton at home on Saturday is possibly where you could see Joe Willock make his debut for Newcastle. Let's have a couple of your comments just here. James says, what will Willock bring to our squad? Would he work well with Wilson? I think that's a very key point that James has put up there, because Callum Wilson has scored 10 goals so far this season. He is probably our player of the year, along with Carl Darlow this season. And you need to try and get Callum Wilson some service. If you give him service, he will score goals. Look at the game on Saturday. He had 4 or 5 good chances and put 2 away. So it's not a bad return. But he does like driving on defences, and we'll touch about what Steve Bruce thinks of him as well in a second. But he's going to bring something different to Newcastle, and I hope that there's positivity from the fans, because that's what we need. If we can get a bit of positivity on this young lad, let him feel loved, in particular on social media, because obviously we can't go to games. But yeah, let's see what he can do. Give him a chance. That's all I will say on the matter. Willock is good. Streets ahead of both the Longstaff. That's an interesting comment as well from Luke. Where does that leave Sean and Matty? Matty Longstaff looked like a championship club was going to take him on loan. He's fighting for his place, which you've got to admire in one respect. Sean Longstaff hasn't been involved in the last 2 games. He hasn't even been in the squad. Where does that leave him? Does Steve Bruce rate him? He has played him for most of the season. People can maybe criticise some of his performances this season, but there is still something there with Sean Longstaff. But have we seen it in consistently? I'd argue not. But look, it's a big 18 months for the Longstaffs. They're both out of contract in 18 months' time. Will Newcastle look to sell them both in the summer window? It remains to be seen. Jay in Atlanta, Yedlin out, Willock in. We are a better team. I agree with Jay in Atlanta. If you haven't seen the transfer deadline day video that we've done, it was only going to be about an hour long between myself, Sam, and Lee, but it ended up being about 2 hours and 10 minutes. So if you haven't watched that, by all means, give it a watch. Willock can surely only improve the team. That's if Bruce plays him. Where will Bruce play him? Well, Steve Bruce has been talking about getting Joe Willock in at Newcastle. He says that he is delighted with the deal, and he will. He's more of an up and down the pitch type of player. Likes to really get involved with the game, and he's got an eye for a goal. He likes to be maybe just a bit like a Frank Lampard in the terms of comes in at the right time to get into those positions of goal scoring positions. If you look at this season, he scored 3 goals in all competitions for Newcastle. After only 17 appearances, he hasn't played many Premier League games. There's more Europa League games, League Cup games, those sort of appearances where he's been involved with Arsenal. He scored 3 goals in the Europa League, as you can see on your screen. But again, worrying that he hasn't really played many Premier League matches. Obviously, two games, 2 starts, I should say, for Arsenal in the Premier League, 5 subs appearances. It's not a great return. But the Europa League, it does look a little bit better. And obviously, when was the last time Newcastle in the Europa League? I think it was 2013. So look, he's playing for a big club in Arsenal. He's joining Newcastle now, and the pressure's on him now because you go to a club like Newcastle, it's different. You know, we're still technically in a relegation battle. The first objective for Willock has got to be, can I shine in a team that's near the bottom of the league? Can I make sure I'm the difference? And if I can, then I should be knocking back on the door for Arsenal. At worst, Newcastle could come back in for me next season. And it gives them a couple of good options. I think it's a really good move for Willock. If you're not getting played at Arsenal, get minutes. Get minutes. And I think that's probably the conversation that Mikel Arteta has had with him in the last maybe 24, 48 hours. But this is what Joe Willock has had to say on the deal that has seen him join Newcastle today. It says it's a club with massive history. It's a team I've grown up watching over the years, which is good. Hopefully he's enjoyed it. And I'm here to work my socks off. That's the least we expect at Newcastle, someone to work their socks off and give everything for the team. And finally, I can't wait to be a part of the Newcastle family. So look, he's saying all the right things now. Can he back it up? And that's the big thing. Can he back it up? Because if he can, he'll be loved at Newcastle. You look at Callum Wilson, you know, he's kind of said, I'm going to promise you goals. He's got 10 goals this season. And Newcastle fans are really falling for Callum Wilson. Can they do the same for Joe Willock? And if he can, Newcastle have got a good player on their hands, to say the least. Let's have a look at some of your comments. He can score a wonder goal against Liverpool in the cup last season, says James. Let's have a look at other ones. Mujib says, apologies, I spelled that if I pronounced that wrong. Good sign, will do good for you guys. He's an Arsenal fan, so he's obviously quite happy that he's getting minutes out on loan. Bicky says, happy to have signed Willock, but at this point we couldn't have signed a left back. Lewis was decent against Everton, but has been shaky at times, and didn't see much of him as a backup for him this season. I thought Jamal Lewis played well, like you say. I don't really disagree with that. But Willock is the big signing tonight, and to get Joe Willock on board to give us something a bit different in midfield, because you look at the players that we've had who have been playing midfield recently, Shelby, Hayden, we know what they're about in this. You know, I think teams can work him out because Joe Willock hasn't played a lot of football for Arsenal this season. You know, it might take teams longer to work him out, and if he's got a little bit of quality as well, you know, that could be the difference for Newcastle. Obviously, he's not going to be available for tomorrow against Crystal Palace, unfortunately, but that Southampton game, you know, I'd love to see him maybe start or at least come off the bench and see what he's about. And if he can add that little bit of quality, maybe it's a bit of shrewd business from Newcastle, to say the least. So look at some more comments from Charlie Smith. As I see that one. Also got to know about one goal he all scored. He's not good. End of. There's a reason he's on loan. We'll stop the gap before they sell him permanently. Charlie's a bit different. He thinks that it's not the best business for Newcastle today, getting Joe Willock, which I'm a bit surprised about, to be honest. I think he has got a bit of potential. I really do. I think him or Ainsley Maitland-Niles I would have been really happy with. But see if you disagree or agree with Charlie, get in the comments below and we'll read some out. Is Willock just a loan or an option to buy? I think it's just a loan. I don't think there's any option to buy or obligation to buy, which you've seen with other deals. I think you look at that Liverpool defender that they just bought. I think it was a Kagba or Nagba, something like that. He's an obligation to buy, potentially, or an option to buy for a certain amount of fee. I don't know if that's the same with Willock. Unfortunately, don't play him as number 10. His decision making is awful from an Arsenal fan. Seems better as an 8. I think that's how Steve Bruce is going to play him. I think it will be as an 8, more of a box-to-box midfielder. He's quite young, he's quick, he's got a bit of an engine. If we can kind of use those abilities or those attributes, I think I'll be quite happy with that. But yeah, I think it's maybe a bit of a shrewd bit of business. We've seen over the years, Newcastle have done okay in the January market. If you look in the last couple of years, Dubravka, what a move, what a signing that was back in the day. I know we've had a couple of awful ones like Islam Slimani, but we have had we've had some good January transfer windows in terms of recent years. Maybe obviously with Rafa getting a couple of half decent players as well. Let's have a look at some other ones. Carl says, just out of interest, what was Charlie's opinion when we signed Hayden from Arsenal under similar circumstances? Yeah, Isaac Hayden. You know, you look at Isaac Hayden at Arsenal, wasn't really getting games, went on loan to a couple of clubs, including Hull, and then Rafa got him at Newcastle, and I still think he's our best midfielder. I really do. In terms of the centre midfield, I think he really is our best option. So yeah, it's going to be fascinating to say the least with Joe Willock. Hopefully he proves Charlie wrong. That'll be a good start. But I have to wait and see. But it's that big conundrum now with Joe Willock, because we have got a lot of options in midfield. Hamza Chowdhury was obviously a player that Newcastle have been heavily linked with. That didn't happen because one of the Longstaffs didn't go to Watford. Now, obviously, you can see on the screen, if Leicester allowed Hamza Chowdhury to join Newcastle, his replacement would have been Nathaniel Chalobah, who started for Watford tonight in their 2-1 defeat at QPR. But the Hornets didn't have that replacement. The Hornets spoke to Newcastle, said, can we have Matty Longstaff? Matty said didn't want to go. And then I think they asked about Sean Longstaff as well. And Sean said, nah, I'm not going either. Can you blame any of the Longstaffs for not going? I personally would. If I was in their boat, I would stay at Newcastle. I don't personally think they should go to Watford, but some would argue that they need minutes, especially Matty needs minutes, and that could potentially help him. But with everything that's going on in the world, I don't think it really suited any of the Longstaffs to really go out on loan when you think about it. But look, I think it's a difficult one, because I think particularly Matty, will he even get into the squad now? We've seen at times last season that he wasn't even getting into the squad, even with 9 substitutes. Unfortunately, I still think Joe Linton will probably still get the nod over both the Longstaffs at some point in terms of getting on the substitute bench, which I wouldn't even have Joe Linton on the subs bench at the minute. I don't think he offers anything at all. For Newcastle, I've just seen something from Samuel there. Didn't Valencia approach one of the Longstaffs? I think there was some sort of story. I don't know if it was actually proof that it was going to happen. I'm just seeing on screen there from Lee saying that Sean Longstaff representatives have reiterated to Newcastle that their client doesn't want to leave the club. He has played a lot of games this season as Sean Longstaff. Some will say he hasn't played brilliantly, but he has had his odd moments. I think of the Chelsea game, I thought he was pretty good. The Everton game at St James's is pretty good, but there has been games this season where he hasn't been great. It's a tough one for him, because he was linked with Manchester United 18 months ago, and now, potentially going on loan to a Championship club. It's a bit of a kick in the teeth, maybe, if you look at it from that point of view. But you hope that he proves us all wrong in a way, because maybe this signing will give him the kick of the backside to go, hold on, I'm actually good enough to be involved in this team. And look, I'd like to think he can prove us wrong, because he's a local lad. It's the same with Matty. I don't think Matty's in the same boat, but I think Matty Longstaff needed minutes. Maybe he needed the loan move, but from probably a selfish point of view, he probably wanted to stay at Newcastle and fight for his place, and you can't really blame the lad for that. Let's have a look at more of your comments before we wrap things up in the next 5 to 10 minutes or so. Jane Atlanta, I'm fine with today. There is no window that will save this club until Ashley's gone. We all want Mike Ashley to leave. Is it going to happen anytime soon? Depends who you listen to. If you listen to other outlets, they're pretty much saying it's done. It's been done for 6 months. Join the bloody dot or whatever it's called. But we'll leave that one for another day. But look, let's see what happens in the summer. There's a lot of rumours going around that the Premier League have already met with Newcastle behind the scenes to stop it going from court. It probably would make sense if that's the way they want to go. If that's the way they want to go down. But well, when it happens, it'll happen. Shall we say? Let's have a look at other ones. Brendan said, and Cham and Hayden would have been a good partnership. I watched a bit of Scottish football, Celtic Rangers, and we've dodged a bullet in my opinion with Cham. I really do, Brendan. I think he's got a little bit of quality, but I don't think he's Premier League quality. I don't even think he's League One quality. I really don't. I think he's shown in the games, maybe against Rangers and Aberdeen, the couple of half decent teams. Obviously, Rangers are a good team now, but Cham's been there for like 3 or 4 years. They're the sort of games that they're the big games for Celtic back in the day, Rangers and Aberdeen. Now, he's not really. He's put in a couple of half decent performances in the Old Firm games, but he's not really done anything really in about 10 to 12 months. I know there's been a COVID break, but even before that, he wasn't really pulling up any trees. He scored a goal for Celtic in the Europa League against Lazio, which is a massive win for Celtic. But apart from that, he's been very, very quiet. And I think he's been wanting to move away from Celtic for a long, long time. So maybe Celtic fans are glad to see the back of him, to say the least. But yeah, it would have been interesting. But I prefer the fact we've got Willock. I really do. I think it's a great bit of business. But we did need more. We did need more. So if you're asking me in terms of out of 10, I'll put it to yourselves. Out of 10, what would you give this January transfer window? I would probably give it a 5. I think we've got a good player. We've got rid of a player that wasn't really getting played yet. Obviously, played a couple of games towards the end of his career in Yadlin, but we needed a new right back, really. Possibly could have done with another striker to help Wilson out if we'd lost either Gale or Carroll. But maybe I'm cherry picking at that, to say the least. Let's have a look at more of your comments. Ewan says, watching for the first time. Well, I hope you're enjoying it anyway, Ewan. If you like and subscribe, that'd be brilliant as well. Let's have a little look. Darcy Munro, watch Scottish football and Champions League seems like a non-trier. Scored a famous goal in Rome, but glad we never got him. Yeah, very much a non-trier, to say the least. Leroy Jenkins, do you think Atsu gets in the 25-man squad? Well, Lee knows I'm a massive fan of. Well, I'm not a massive fan of Christian Atsu, but I think he would get my 25-man squad over Rolando Aarons, just because I think defensively he does a better job going forward. I don't think there's a lot in it. Maybe Aarons is slightly better, but I do think he will. Out of the 3 players we've got left, it was Atsu, Saive, and Lazar. I think Atsu is going to get that nod because Joe Willock doesn't have to be in that 25-man squad because of the fact that he's under a particular age. So, yeah, I think it's either between Atsu or Saive. I think Lazar's that bad, but I think Atsu will get the nod because of the fact that he has played for Newcastle more times than anything else. Out of those out between 1 and 10, 6 says Shocks, 3 says Travel, 2.5 says John B. I think we might have another Arsenal fan here saying Joe Willock is useless, you can have him. Hopefully he proves Fred's wrong as well. Let's have a little look. Arsenal fan here. Willock will do great for you guys. Hope you stay up. I hope so too. I hope you can get us up the table. Maybe, I don't know, push towards that top 10. Maybe. Might be a bit too optimistic, but let's see what happens, to say the least. Darcy Monroe says 5, and Nathan finally says, I think Joe Willock will link well with Wilson. Saint-Maximin Almiron, that'd be interesting. Like I was saying, Saint-Maximin Almiron, another quick player, can get involved with the game. Let's see what happens, because I think that'd be brilliant to see all them in the mix in one particular game for Newcastle as well. You look at the next few games, we've got Crystal Palace, Southampton. Who have we got after that? We've got maybe Wolves coming up towards the end of the month as well. Chelsea and Man United, just to name a couple of games. So it's not going to be easy for the players coming in, likes of Willock coming in. But, what a time to shine. You're going to probably play most games for Newcastle in the middle of probably just a more advanced midfield role. Let's see what you can do. And if you can pull up trees, then Newcastle will stay away from that relegation zone, to say the least. Rowan says, apparently we would have signed a new Liverpool centre-back, but they offered the option to buy at the end of the season. They did. I don't think Newcastle are ever going to pay £18 million at the end of the window unless he was really, really that good. But that was from Ian Dennis of the BBC. Claims that Ozan Kabak was heading to Newcastle until Liverpool stepped in, but no other journalist ever really said anything about that. It was just Ian Dennis of the BBC. So, yeah, we'll have to see if other journalists could find that out as well. But obviously, Ian Dennis is a pretty good source, so I'll go with that. 40's in the comments. Sorry, 40, that I missed you before. Just had to charge my phone so I could do this video for you tonight. He says, give his channel a subscribe as well. Geordie's down south. How do we squeeze Willock, Fraser, ASM, and Almiron all in the same team? Well, if you swap Willock for Hendrick, or would you swap Willock for Shelby? I think they're the 2 places up for battle for Joe Willock at the minute. Maybe Shelby. Maybe Shelby, because Shelby's been a bit hot and cold, and he has got a bit of an injury in him. Shelby always seems to pick up 1 injury a season. I don't think you've got to change the rest. I think Almiron can still play as that number 10 if you look at the game like against Everton. ASM, we know how much of he is down the left hand side or right hand side, depending on where you think's best for him. And then you've got Wilson up top, who can relies on likes of ASM, Fraser, and potentially Willock with service. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all works out. But it's a very good question. Doesn't give you many good questions, just 40, but I'll let him off with that one. No left back, says Lewis the Beast. Yeah, well, we've got Jamal Lewis. Hopefully he can continue his form from the game on Saturday. Why didn't we sign Jetro Willem, says Chris? I don't know. Maybe because we didn't want to pay that nominal fee. You know, it was going to be free at the end of the season anyway. The Shields Gazette claim that Willems was offered to the club, but Newcastle declined to sign him. Lee said in the transfer deadline day reaction that Newcastle were probably just saving their money and probably going to get him sorted on a pre-contract agreement. Possibly so. Possibly so. Let's have a little look. Last couple of ones. Arsenal fan, yeah. Matt Ritchie can slot as left back. I think that's going to be the final comment before we wrap things up with Willock. Matt Ritchie still at the club. Did you want him to stay? Get your comments in. I'm not bothered either way. I have to be honest. I think he's a good squad player. But is he going to get into that starting 11? Unless there's injuries, not for me. Not for me, to say the least. But last thing is on Joe Willock. Look, welcome to the club. Hopefully you can get a run of games and really show what you're all about, because it's a win-win. For if you're an Arsenal fan, if he does well, can he get back into Arsenal starting 11? If he does okay, can Newcastle get him on loan for another 12 months, a bit like what Kennedy was for Newcastle? Get him on loan for another 12 months and see how he gets on. Let's see what happens. But if he does well in Newcastle shirt, not going to be any relegation body like a thing anyway, and that's probably the best way to round things off tonight. But yeah, so thank you very much for watching it. It's been a long transfer deadline day. Newcastle have brought in Joe Willock. DeAndre Ellen's gone the other way, and now we can just concentrate on all things Newcastle United going forward. That is the next game, and that's Crystal Palace tomorrow, and we have all the videos for you as well. We've got Scoring the Players, fan reaction show, instant reaction, and we've got the last word with Lee at ridiculous o'clock on Wednesday morning, probably around about the same time it is now. But hopefully if Newcastle can get 3 points, I'm sure Lee won't mind. I'm sure the lads at Newcastle Fans TV don't mind doing all the videos. But yeah, like and subscribe to Newcastle Fans TV. And Joe Willock, welcome to Newcastle United.